How determined were you to be the difference today?
Yeah, very determined, and it's always tough. Any player will tell you it's always tough being injured. We've obviously had a lot of injuries this year, so it's, in the scheme of things, actually quite a short one turnaround in comparison to some of the other lads who like Vicario and Wilson Odobert, who are back today, had been months and months. So in terms of that, but listen, you miss one game or you miss 10 games, you're always chomping at the bit to get back. Obviously picked up a little calf injury in Hoffenheim, but I scored that day and I felt good. And sometimes when you feel like that scoring presence, you feel like you want to keep that momentum going. So I went into the game today because actually, to be fair, it wasn't that long ago that I played, 2.5, 3 weeks. I know I can be the difference here. So really nice to get on the score sheet again today, and really proud of the boys because obviously it's been a bit of a up and down season in the league. Probably not in the position where we want to be in terms of the league table. Simple as that. So. But yeah, really happy for the lads and for the fans today because it was a great atmosphere today, proper Premier League clash against a big team. So yeah, send them home happy.
It's obviously quite a simple finish, but is the key that you're the guy who's on the move, you're the guy who's alert?
Yeah, just being alive. You know, I've always been a goal scoring midfielder. That's what I'm in the team to. That's why Spurs brought me to the club. You know. So to be the difference for me is to score goals and create goals and be that creative outlet on the pitch. And scoring goals is one of them things that I just mentioned. So being alive in the box and trying to sniff out them free ones, it's just they count the same as the 25-yarders. So yeah, really happy with that one.
I have to say, I enjoyed your celebration. A very precisely thrown dart and then a finger to the lips. Directed at anyone in particular?
Just a little bit of outside noise, wasn't there, this week?
A little bit.
But nah, listen, people have their opinions, but I wanted to do my talking on the pitch today, so I hope there's a certain few that enjoyed me being the match winner today, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you put probably more pressure on yourself. I mean, I've interviewed you numerous times over the years. The most pressure on you comes from you, right?
Yeah, and no one's more critical of myself than me, you know. So outside gaffer, to be fair to the gaffer, he always talks about like blocking out the outside noise, but sometimes it's difficult, you know. It's constantly in your face and stuff. And
but sometimes can you actually use it? Not forget blocking it out. Use it as motivation.
You can use it, but I think the gaffer prefers when we're just in our little bubble and listening to him and stuff. But sometimes it's difficult because it's constantly in your face these days with social media and WhatsApp, people sending stuff, and you do see it and it is there. So
it all gets fed through to your phone straight away, pretty much.
Sometimes, but especially when it's a big profile name. But listen, it's about responding in the right way, and I did that today. And like I said, I was the match winner, so really delighted.
For the not just you personally, for the group, has there been a lot of noise to shut out? Because I mean, you said in one of your earlier answers, to this point, it hasn't been the season you wanted.
No, it hasn't. And to be fair to the boys that have been the boys that have been fit all season as well, that went. Listen, the gaffer spoke about it and we've spoke about it a lot. We don't want to make excuses, but the last few months have been really difficult for the football club. We didn't get many bodies in January, especially early January, and we had our physio room was it's not an excuse, but it was full of senior players. You could have put out a senior 11 that's very experienced in the Premier League. So the lads who were just relentlessly going in Europe, and we obviously went deep into the Carabao as well, every 3 days. It's nice to be an injured player coming back. I know I didn't have too much time out, but only a couple of weeks. But to take the pressure off them and give them a rest and give the other lads a boost. And I thought Vicario was outstanding as well today, coming back in. So just it's about us being present now and leading like they did. Even amongst the bad run, they were still there. They were still present. They were still recovering. They were still living right to try and give us the best chance of winning. We had a bit of a bad run in form, but there's obviously factors to that, so it's nice to be back and have a bit of a bolster to the squad with some injuries and see some happy faces. Yeah.
Well played, James. Thank you.
Well
done.
Thank you, James.
It is hard for players to shut out the noise, as he was saying. Did James Maddison show the best way to respond to it?
That's all we can do. You know, do the business on the pitch, but not just today, for a run of games now. And I think sometimes the hardest thing to do as a player is look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I've not perhaps done the business. I haven't been as good as what I should be. And I think he's alluding to what's been said about him this week. And sometimes you've got to take that if you don't like it. That's the best way to react. Come out, do the business on the pitch, do your talking on the pitch. It's not been a good enough season for Tottenham. Yes, they've had injuries, but to be in the position they are, other teams have had injuries and struggled, but still found ways of winning. But it was a big 3 points from today. And that performance was one that I wasn't surprised by. It was never going to be beautiful. It was never going to be one of those sort of performances where everyone's like doing olays and it's lovely to watch. It wasn't a joyful game. It was a tough watch at times. But the important thing is it's just building performances like that, getting 3 points and taking the pressure off, because you've still got a big cup to look forward to. There's not many great sides left in that one, and you can stand up for a European Cup at the end of it. So that's what their objective has to be right now, and keep producing better performances.
They did what they had to do, Spurs, but how would you describe the way they went about it, Jermaine?
Just professional, to be honest. You know, just getting the job done. Of course, you want to play good football. I mean, since Ange's been in, we saw, especially in the first 2 months when he come in, you know, it was free-flowing, different to Conte. Everyone enjoyed it. You know, Spurs is back. But I think now, when you've had bad results, and it's been a long time, I think it's just a case of just being professional, being disciplined at times, sticking together and just winning. You know, then it just becomes like the results important, and performance ain't as much as that important as the result.
What do you make of the goal itself from James Maddison? Was he the most alert player in the box?
Yeah, and that's it really. He's the one that reacted the quickest. He just got himself in an area where, I mean, there's a lot of bodies in there, and I think Son here was just trying to sort of like just get it in the area. But even, I mean, Onana maybe could have pushed it a little bit wider. That's probably a negative on their part. But like, yeah, he just got himself in an area where he can sort of like try and sniff something out. I like saying, you know, getting attracted to the goalkeeper. No one's really seen him. He just reacted, and I bet he can't believe his luck when he
just
got in
glances over towards the assistant, doesn't he?
Of
just
course,
to make sure.
Yeah, because you don't know, and in that moment it happens so quick. But even when he taps it in, you just, I suppose you straight away you probably think, because you've got so much time, you think I must be offside. But like I said, he was the first one to react.
He reacts and
then,
gambles, he's alive. That's what
exactly.
that was what Jermaine did. He just always followed that.
There he is with the half lobster, followed by the darts throw.
Yeah.
Well, let you be delighted. You just want to score goals. You want to be playing. That's what you need to do. Just keep doing this, talking on the pitch. Play well, and people won't be questioning your ability or everything you do. And it's important he does that now to the end of the season, because there's no doubt he has qualities. We all know that.
Yep.
You also talked about the importance of having players who, yes, he's not been out for a huge amount of time, but he's been out for a couple of weeks. Can that actually help Tottenham, that he's coming back in? And yes, he's been recovering from injury, but he's maybe a bit fresher than the ones who are playing midweek weekend.
You just need bodies. You need, especially substitute. We looked at the two managers today. Amarin's looking behind, thinking, I've got 17, 18-year-olds here to bring on, or a centre-back in Lindelof. You look at Ange's, his bench is pretty stacked, if you like. You've got good midfield players there. You've got Odegaard that can come on and do something. Defensively, you're OK. It makes a big difference. And all of a sudden, that squad looks a bit thicker. You can get players back, a little bit of confidence. Vicario was a gamble today, but he brought him back in and he performed really well, made one brilliant save from Garnacho, and that's exactly what they needed today. So it is going to take time for them to get that performance and that confidence and free-flowing football that we spoke about maybe last season when Ange first come. Because when you're under pressure, it's difficult. You know, the crowd, the anxiety. But the most important thing was, Kelly, they got that 3 points. It wasn't vintage by any stretch, but it was a good win for them.
When Jamie mentioned there the chance for Garnacho, there were a couple of opportunities for Manchester United in this game. So we have to factor in, when we're judging Tottenham's performance, that Manchester United were wasteful, Jermaine.
Yeah, this is a big chance. You have to make the goalkeeper work. You have to hit the target from there, because he has time, to be honest. I know it bobbles up a little bit, but you have to slow your feet down, be calm and hit the target. You know, that was a big chance in the game, Jane. Yeah,
I mean, this one... Look, you talk about this is your domain, Jay. What does he do wrong
But
here?
even this one, to be honest, it's not an easy chance, of course, because I think Porro comes across and he's stretching a little bit. It's not an easy chance, but at the same time, you want to think that you have to try and go across the goalkeeper there. This one's, I think...
This is a bit unlucky, this one. He hits this well.
Yeah, it's a good stop, good save. But there's nothing else he can do, really. Just try and hit the target, gets good power.
Good save.
I won't say it was a great chance, but he made it.
You said there were moments from Xerxes. This may be not one of them, Jamie.
Because Jermaine said something really interesting. What does he get wrong here, Jermaine?
I spoke about like foot patterns, if that makes sense, because I just felt like he was a little bit flat-footed there. You can see his movement. There's not much movement now, because I always think once the ball goes wide, if you can just sort of like come away from the ball and then attack it, I think just those slight movements, if you do that, then I think you've got a better chance, because it's sort of like caught underneath it and he's sort of like stretching there where it's too flat-footed.
What you mean? I don't know if we can see that again.
Yeah.
But
so I'm talking
do you mean
about
making
like
shorter steps?
Shorter steps.
Because they're 3 long steps that he makes.
So if the ball goes wide, if he comes away from it a little bit, 2 yards, comes away from it a little bit, then you go forward and attack it. But it's sort of like just on his heels a little bit.
So he's running onto the ball.
Yeah, just those. It's small details. It's little things really.
Is that maybe just a little bit
Too
of lack
static.
of confidence? Is that belief?
Because I always think when the ball goes wide for centre forwards, you should always have 2 movements, even if it's subtle movements. Haaland does it well. It would sort of like, it goes back and then he'll attack it. You know, it doesn't have to be big movements, but those subtle movements, your foot patterns are so important and it could make the difference.
Here is Ange Postecoglou with Patrick Davison.
Well, Ange, after the rest and the reset, how important was the result?
Yeah, well, it was everything, I guess. You know, we kind of know our league position's not anywhere where it should be, and yeah, today was an opportunity for us to start addressing that. Like you said, we had a good week of training, we got some players back, and important we won today. Yeah,
it was pretty direct evidence of what you've been missing. James Maddison scores the winning goal, and Guillermo Vicario, I don't think he was player of the match in the end, but he must have been pretty close to it.
Yeah, well, you know, that's they're quality players, and we've had to do it pretty tough for the last 2.5 months, not through the lack of effort or trying from the lads. But yeah, just great to get those guys back, and even the guys who sort of came on and were able to contribute. Important, like I said, for us to gain some traction today. We can play better, definitely, but I think we will, you know, once we get some boys up to speed and start growing into it.
Did you see other evidence, maybe bits that someone like me wouldn't pick up, of the difference having fresher players, slightly more full strength team makes? I don't know, maybe in the way you press, maybe in the way you built up.
You're a smart bloke, mate. You can see these things.
And you're the first person to say that.
Okay. Probably says more about me than anything else. No, look, I did think our press was a lot better than it has been in recent weeks. I thought it made it hard for sort of Man United to get out, and that certainly helped us get a grounding in the game where we could play the game in their half. And yeah, look, we looked a little bit sharp. I still think our front third movements were missing a bit. Obviously, look, Matty's just joined the club, and obviously with Matt has been out for quite a while. I felt we lacked a little bit of fluency in that front third. Having said that, we still created some chances, and yeah, look, we'll improve. We need to, but it was a decent effort.
Is the thing with the injuries, players come back, but form, confidence, all those intangibles, they don't just rush along back with the players? Yeah,
I don't think it's confidence. I think they're all sort of really keen to get out there, but you know, there is a game rhythm which only comes by playing games. You know, every footballer will tell you the same thing. As much as you train, you know, playing a game of football is a lot different. But you know, having said that, I thought Vic and Matt has handled it really well, and it was great to get some time into, you know, guys like Brendan and Wilson. You know, Destiny's ready to go, and we're not too far away from a couple of others, so we're going to need them. We still feel like we've got a big back half of the year and some real opportunity, so that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, I know I said it in my first question, but was it a really big day to win? Because when you spent the week, you know, you did a great job in your press conference of making it feel more positive again, but when you've done that and you've talked up the importance of players coming back and having the break, if you then don't get the result, it's a bit of an uh-oh kind of moment.
Yeah, I'm sure most people were tuning in for that, to be honest. Everyone likes a little bit of a impending car crash, so I'm sure we had a lot of people, you know, willing that sort of scenario on. But look, for me, it doesn't really change. The reason I was positive is because I just, you know, I know how hard these players have worked for the last 2.5 months without great reward. They got help this week in terms of our schedule, but also players coming back. Our training was better. I was confident that we'd put in a good shift, and more importantly, we get the result.
Yeah, and just on the injuries, it was fascinating during the week hearing you talk about like Mickey van der Ven working on his mechanics, the time you take in with Romero, with the players coming back now. Can you just tell us about maybe what you've learned, how you've adapted in terms of finding solutions to what has been obviously a long-running injury issue? Yeah, look,
again, it's hard to sometimes do that in the midst of competition because the focus is still on, you know, trying to win games of football. But, you know, in the background we're doing sort of our own, looking into ways we can do things better. But we're not going to be the only ones. I've foreshadowed this for a while, and you know, there'll be a few that come to my world in the next period, and you know, people will see that it's sometimes not just a reflection of the people involved, but a reflection of the circumstances you've been dealt with.
So do you feel like that? Because we are seeing it at other clubs, and they probably have all season, that there's a wider issue there. I mean, you've had it in a lot of your press conferences. It's been put to you that the style of play, the way you press, the energy you put in. Yeah. You know, if if you're top of the pressing league, you're going to be quite high in the hamstring league as well.
To a certain extent, but what flies against that is we've had quite a few players who haven't got injured at all and played the whole season. In fact, played more football this year than they have in their whole careers. So it's not just that. It's more than that. That's a factor, obviously, in the way we play. But other clubs don't play like us, and they're starting to accumulate the toll of no rest for the players between seasons and the accumulation of fixturing that's making it awfully difficult for everyone.
Genuine light at the end of the tunnel this time, not another train.
Who knows? But look, as I said, we feel, and I certainly feel, that there's still a massive opportunity for us this back half of the year. Obviously Europe, but even in the league to make some inroads, and hopefully today's the start of that.
Thank you, Ange.
Thanks, Pat.
Cheers.
Well, Gary Neville has joined us in the studio. He's been very defensive in terms of the questions that he's been asked about his style, because they've been losing games. But they've won today, and now Ange Postecoglou gets to go on the front foot. What did you make of their performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think every manager, when they're in this situation, and I've been there myself, always think that the criticism is personal and it's harsh and it goes too far, and then they think that ultimately a little bit of paranoia kicks in. I think at times as a manager it's a lonely place, and I think that's what's obviously happening with Ange. Even as experienced as he is, he has been under pressure in this last 3 months, going out of 2 cup competitions, losing all the games in the league, losing all the players through injury, bringing them back and then getting re-injured. So there's been a lot of things going on here. Obviously then the protests against the owners then sort of being under pressure. Do they sack the manager? Did they not sack the manager? And he's right in the middle of it. And he's the only guy who has to go out every single week and do 6 press conferences. 3 games a week they've been playing now for 2 or 3 months. He has to go out before and after every single game. So he's fronting the whole club. The guys there in the director's box, and I do own a football club, so I suppose in some ways, poacher term gamekeeper here for a minute. It's the manager who goes out there and faces the cameras every single week. So I've got a little bit of sympathy for him, but also when you lose games at Tottenham like they have, then you're going to get put under pressure. So it's a good night for him tonight. But I don't buy into this that everyone wants Ange Postecoglou to be sacked or to be
Or to fail.
To fail, because actually I desperately don't. I think that he's one of the best styles of play I've seen here for a long time. It's brilliant how he's got his team to play. They're so exciting to watch. I absolutely love it when I get a Tottenham game given to me sort of at the end of each month, and you get your games the following month. So I think everybody wants him to succeed, but obviously results do have to improve.
And they improved today with that 1-0 win against Manchester United, who we will get to. But it looks as though things may, and I say this quite cautiously, be starting to improve for Tottenham. You look at the current injury list now. Timo Werner's coming back next week. Christian Romero, Dominic Solanke, Mickey van der Ben, maybe by early March. Richarlison a little later. And then Dragusin, obviously, with the ACL, is going to be a lot longer than that. So there are players starting to come back to fitness. And he said that one of the factors might well be the way that they play. But he also pointed to the players who've been able to play for a lot longer than they have done at previous stages in their career. But the number of sprints per game is the highest for Tottenham of any team in the Premier League. Bournemouth have also had a lot of injuries, and they're second on that list. So it may not be the reason, but is it a reason, Gary?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's a demanding, physically demanding style of play that Tottenham have. And you see, I think Arsenal and Manchester City were near the bottom. And I always remember when we played, quite often our manager would say to us, you cannot press all game. You have to make sure that you take blocks of periods of game where you're 20 minutes and you might have to sit behind the ball or sit in a sort of mid-block position as it's termed now, or even in a low block. We'd sometimes sit 5-10 yards outside of our own box and counter-attack. I think you said that before the game today. Tottenham are always on the front foot, and it's extremely demanding to do that. So you are asking, you are asking for more from the best, particularly when you're playing 3 games a week.
So he's looking at ways internally that they can try and mitigate that. What kind of things would he be looking at, Jamie? How does he need to handle some of those players who may be more susceptible to, for example, hamstring injuries?
I had a lot of injuries when I played, unfortunately, so I understand that part of the game. But the only thing I will say is, with some of them, it's difficult to say. Sometimes it happens. You can roll an ankle, or you can have an injury with your knee. When you have a player, say, like Mickey van der Ven, who's a flyer machine, that is susceptible to hamstring injuries, a little bit like Michael Owen was, where I played with Michael, that every time he's got a little bit nervy once he picked up one. I think the game he actually picked his first one up, I remember, I think he played left back, which is not going to be beneficial to somebody like that because you're making a lot more runs. Then when he came back this season, when he did it, I just felt it was a risk. And I got the manager's reasoning for doing it, because you're under pressure. He's your best player. Can I get him back on the pitch? Most players want to play, so he's probably saying, yeah, Gaffer, I'll be right, get me on the pitch. But if I was the player now and I was his agent and people looking up, I'd be fuming, because it's now become not just 1, 2, 3 times you do a hamstring injury, you've had an operation. Once you sew that back on, are you that quick anymore? We don't quite know. And are you susceptible to it happening again? So they are things that I think the manager has to be accountable for. And that's a problem. But I will also say, what Gary says, that when you're getting, criticised as a manager, sometimes you just have to take it. It's not personal, and when you're in that position in the league, when you're going out without a fight against Liverpool and you're producing those kinds of performances and you're losing in a lot of games and the performances have been so poor, that's the price on the ticket when you're managing a big club. So you have to take it.
Just on that, when Van der Ven and Romero came back, I think it was against Chelsea. Here, and we did the game, and we all thought it was a massive risk.
Yeah.
But just understand the dynamic of a football club. Sometimes it happens at the end of a season, a final, where a manager might overrule sports science and medical doctors and say, look, we have to play him because it's a final and we've got nowhere else to go. I mean, a lot's made of sports science nowadays and the experts within these departments and the medical departments. I've never, ever seen a manager go against a doctor or medical advice where they say, look, they're not quite ready yet, Ange, don't play them today. I suspect they must have been told. Well, if he has gone against medical and doctor advice, it would be quite unusual, I think, in a football. Yeah. Managers don't tend to go against medical advice and doctor's advice.
I'm not just because obviously we're not privy to conversations, but when you're under pressure as a manager and you're putting a little bit of heat on the
department, you need strong doctors who says, I'm sorry, you can play them at your risk.
How many are when you're
managers do put pressure? Because I remember when AVB was here, I remember when the players got injured and literally he was sitting on the scans. Because when you need results, that's the first thing. The managers
What do you
put
mean
pressure.
sitting on the scans?
If you're doing like an ultrasound, when AVB was at Tottenham,
the manager was watching over.
The manager was sitting and
what was he looking for?
Doctor
But if you haven't got the training, what are you looking for?
He thought you were having him over, didn't you? He thought you were...
But literally, he was sitting, and that's how much pressure these managers put on.
Honestly,